Welcome to Roots and Ruminants, your podcast for creative and innovative use of farm, pasture, and rangeland. We're going back to the basics of raising and grazing livestock, growing your own forage, and practical land use.
All right, welcome back, everybody. We are on to another episode of Roots and Ruminants. Jared and I are sitting down. We've got an awesome guest today. We're sitting down with Sara Bauder, the SDSU Extension Forage Field Specialist. I think that got that right, Sara?
You did, yeah. Yep.
All right,
it's a mouthful.
got it right. Yeah, no, that's a great title. So if you've been involved in anything going on as far as like SDSU activities with field days related to forage, you probably saw Sara's involvement on there. So we're going to go through and talk through what she's been doing with there. She's certainly well connected within the state, all things related to forage and SDSU. So we're going to talk through that. Got an annual meeting coming up. We're going to talk through that and get to all that good stuff. So Sara, can you give your introduction as far as, you know, saying your title again and exactly how you work within SDSU with the world of forages?
Sure. I've been with SDSU since 2012 and I actually started in a research role. I was in soil fertility research as a tech for a few years. So that means you're out in the field doing the research. It was a lot of fun. And somehow my boss convinced me that I should get a master's degree and then I could work for Extension. And I had actually always wanted to work for Extension. I thought it was a really cool role to do. I always liked education and went to school for teaching ag, but ended up in adult ed because I just always had a heart for that and ag. So it fit together really well. And ended up, once I finished my master's, in an agronomy extension position, and then that morphed into this forage position. So as a forage specialist, you know, my main goal is to reach out to forage producers in and around the state and work with them, troubleshooting problems, working on research. And the biggest thing a lot of times is just making the connection and networking so that you have a base of people to work with and learn from. I'm not always the educator. I mean, I feel like a lot of days I'm learning from the people I work with and from the growers that call me and say, hey, I have this problem. And it's a problem that I couldn't have come up with in 100 years a lot of times. And then the next day it might be, you know, the third call on the same prussic acid issue in the fall type thing. So just depends on the day. But I really do love the job, and it definitely is rewarding and keeps you busy. That's for sure.
That's great. And Sara, so we actually met in a program called South Dakota. Well, we met before that in FFA, probably, but got reconnected through South Dakota Ag and Rural Leadership a few years ago. How many years ago was that? 5, 6? Does that sound right?
Yeah, we were like class 8, and I think they're on 12 or I don't know. It's been a while. Wow.
So that math means it's farther along than that. Okay. And so for those of you who are not familiar with South Dakota Ag and Rural Leadership, it's called SDARL, which is an odd acronym pronunciation, but it was similar to like Nebraska Ag and Rural Leadership, NARL, Minnesota Ag and Rural Leadership, MARL. And it's basically a summer camp for adults with like 10 different camps that you go to all year.
That's a great description.
And then one of those camps is in another country.
That's right. At the end.
That is. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It was a lot of fun. It was a good time.
It was a great time. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Okay.
I believe we were referred to as the trained monkeys at that time, Jared, because of our That's right. Identifiable FFA training.
Speech training that was cookie cutter to one another. Yeah.
Shout out to all you people that picked on us. Thank you.
Yeah. John Moats, if you know, you know.
That's right.
You know. Okay. All right. Hey, so glad to have you on. So tell me more about, and this is a question a bit for both of you, but I've been hearing about the Northern Plains Forage Council. Is that right? That was recently
Forage Association.
Association.
Yep.
Association.
Yep.
Yes. Very good.
Council Association.
NIPFA, right? Is that what you call it? NIPFA? Okay.
I don't know if we've gotten, that far into abbreviation. A lot of people say NPFA. What do you say, Justin?
Well, I'm going to now call it NIPFA or
NIPFA.
NIPFA. I think it's a long A at the end.
NIPFE.
Maybe.
Okay,
Yeah.
so
Maybe.
tell me both about the ideas behind NIPFE and how it came about and how long it's been in existence, and a little bit about what the vision is. That was three questions in one. So you can start first. How did it begin? When did it
Sure.
start? And where are you guys at today?
Go
Well,
ahead,
I
Sarah.
would say this. Okay, this whole thing got its beginning because there was a group of people at a regional meeting, and we had this epiphany that there's really no organized forage group in South Dakota, or that I-29 corridor, real close to it. There are some groups in neighboring states, but nobody was real close to that high hot point forage area. And South Dakota is one of the top forage producers in the nation year after year. With alfalfa, we've made it to the top. We've been fifth. We've been anywhere in between. And there's just not a great reason that we shouldn't have a group. So we kind of talked at that meeting, a few of us, and thought we should try to do something. And I found out through the grapevine that Ed Twidwell, who was an extension educator back in the day, told me that they started one and it ran through the 80s. And I think it ended in the early 90s or late 80s. And there hasn't been anything since. So this pretty great group of people formed, and we had an informational meeting and picked up board members. There was enough interest that we felt like we're just going to try this. And now Justin and 8 other people are on the board, and doing a great job of, it's been about a year that we formally, I would say, been acting as an association. But we have just short of 40 members. We've got 5 associate members, and it's just growing slowly but surely. So I'll let Justin share a little bit about what his role is on the board, or what he thinks about the association, because maybe I'm just thinking it's great and he's a disgruntled board member for all I know.
No, it is
This
a great organization. I think it's yeah. No, I think ultimately there probably needs to be some more promotion as far as the forage industry goes, right? Like it's not a sector of business within anybody's farm that people know exactly how to do things. Like there's not the systematic approaches to growing forages. It's pretty wild. And so I think part of the association really wants to focus on the networking to share ideas and how people are going about things. And that kind of relates to what this podcast is doing too, right? Like we talk about how people are going about it and how they're utilizing different forages, grazing, haying, harvesting, all those things. So the networking is a big part of it. And then I think, the education, people just need to learn from other experts within the industry. And so the association has held some, brought in some speakers to other events, and will with the annual meeting coming up here the 1st of December as well. And then I think, what's that, Jared?
No, is that an opportunity for people to engage and come visit, check it out?
Yes. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So it is. It's December 1st, and it's going to be the first ever annual meeting. It's something that we're going to continue to try to do at that same time every year. And so the headline speaker is Dr. Dan Undersander, and he's from University of Wisconsin, former professor there. And if you know the world of alfalfa, you've heard Dr. Undersander talk, and he'll do a great job as far as management of alfalfa, and even like just he's got a great view of what that industry is and maybe where it's going. And so I think that's probably as big of a name in the alfalfa industry as we could get for a first meeting. And so I think that's pretty cool. So we're expecting like a lot of people from the tri-state area to look at this and say, you know what, this is kind of a cool opportunity for me to go hear him speak. There's going to be some other speakers on alternative forage as well. And then plus some big time networking opportunities with everybody else who's growing alfalfa, putting up feed, grazing, all things forage related is what we want it to be.
And where do you draw that line when you say Northern Plains forage? Where do you draw the line where if you're farther south of that, you just don't get in the door? Is it like St. Joe, Missouri, or Omaha? Like, where do you draw the line?
Yeah, it's always relative, isn't it? Like north of Texas?
Right. I don't know that anybody's drawn a line. We've been asked that question, and I was actually just talking with a couple other board members on a different podcast this morning about the same thing. And it seems like the majority of the members or interest has kind of been in the states surrounding the east side, South Dakota, including North Dakota and Nebraska, and we have Minnesota and Iowa. But if people further south or further west, or even further east, there are more forage associations as we move east. But I don't think that this group is going to turn anyone down. Just to be aware that it's a Northern Plains focus agronomically. So we might not have all the same things that someone that's from, eastern Wisconsin might be interested in, but I think it would still fit just fine. But the group has done a great job, and Justin is, like I said, he's one of 9 board members, and they've done a lot of work. And we have some long meetings because when you're starting something like this, there's just a lot of details to work out. Just in this last year, they've had summer forage field day. They partnered with myself with SDSU, UNL, and Wu University to put on a really great summer forage field day at Beersford. We had open meeting and speaker at the Dairy Expo last year, and hoping to do that again this year. They're going to be present. They were at the Sioux Falls Farm Show last year as well with a meeting, and planning to do that this year and be at Ag Horizons and Pier with a booth. And then, of course, the annual meeting here in just a little over a week. So quite a bit going on. And really the mission is to promote sustainable, quality, profitable forage production. And I think they're doing a great job. And it's really grassroots trying to do that and just make sure that networking and learning community can be built.
Thanks.
That field day was something I wish, so it was very well attended, but it's like when you're there, it's like, holy buckets, I wish there were so many more people here to see what's going on here. So had some awesome forage sorghum sedan grass trials that we're able to go look through. And I think just having that was a big, massive group of forage producers there to talk with. You had some equipment there that gave some spiels on choppers and stuff as well. What's the future look like for doing that again this next summer?
So we've held that field day since 2017, and we were doing it every other year. And then a couple years ago, UNL, Ben Beckman with UNL partnered with us. And so we started doing it every year, South Dakota and then Nebraska and back to South Dakota, back and forth. So this next year, we'll plan on doing it in Nebraska. And the Forage Association, I'm pretty certain the group wants to partner again. So they'll be an active part of making that happen. And you know what I found from an extension person's perspective? It is so great to have this group because I have a direct connection to a really great network of growers and industry people who can tell me what the issues are that I might not even realize. It's easy to get caught up in your own bubble trying to just chase your tail and put out fires instead of looking at what's new in the world of research and what are people's issues in this area. So that's helped with planning these meetings because then what do people want to hear?
That's a great point. And I have a question based on that. Can you give me an example of some research that you're doing now or have done recently or would like to do that came from one of those like moments of talking to a producer and saying, I'm just trying to figure this out. And you've said, that's a great point, and I'm hearing this over and over again. Let's put that into a project.
For sure. As an extension person, we try to do applied research on the side because it's a great way for people to actually see what's going on. And of course, we take the university research and we try to disseminate it, but it's good to do your own. So I have a few things going on right now, and I would say a couple of them are definitely due to interactions from either people with the Forage Association or growers in general. I'm a part of a multi-state sorghum variety trial, and all of these are happening at the Southeast Research Farm by Beersford. Most of my research happens there because that's where the forage harvesting equipment is at and the planting equipment. But that sorghum research, it's a variety trial that try to develop varieties that are more suited for the Northern Plains because a lot of that sorghum work doesn't happen here. So that's been a really cool thing to be a part of, and it spurred us to also start a commercial trial. So there is a commercial entry trial at the farm too, and that's been an awesome way to get more data on what sorghums and sorghum sedan grasses, as well as sedan grass, what works and what doesn't, what do people want to see. We've done that as a silage trial. We've also done it as a grazing trial or a two-cut silage trial. So that's been some fun research, and you can find all those results in the Southeast Research Farm reports or on the extension website. And I would say some of the other research, I've done a lot of different things with alfalfa, but one of the most interesting telling things has been doing work on inoculant and seeding rate. And it was just some unfunded work that Ben out of UNL, Ben Beckman and myself decided to do. So he's got some sites down at the Haskell Ag Lab by Concord, and I've got sites at Beersford. And we're just testing out different seeding rates and with or without inoculant on the seed and the differences. And that's going to be some interesting data. We're, I think, on the end of year 3. So we should have something to publish here pretty soon. It's kind of fun because you see different recommendations from different companies and universities, and we just wanted to try it and see. So that seeding rate piece definitely came from some grower interactions and questions about, so what seeding rate should I use? So it's been kind of fun.
That's awesome. Practical too. What are you seeing? Like, can I plant alfalfa at 5 or should I use 30?
Most of it. So NDSU came out with some stuff that said about, I think it was in kilograms, but it came out to be about 13 pounds per acre for them. Seemed to be just fine. And that's close. I haven't done the stats yet, but anecdotally, looking at everything, it's close between that 10 and 20 pounds per acre range is really, after that, we don't see a lot of advantage because alfalfa self-thins and it also fills itself in. So if you have a whole lot of seeding error, that's different. If you're going to seed 4,000 acres as fast as you can, and you're not going to spend a lot of time calibrating and making sure the seed's getting barely in the ground and packed, maybe you're willing to spend extra money on seed. But if you're planting a 40-acre field and you're going to take the time to do it well and make sure that it's being drilled in or planted in the way it should be, yeah, there's just less air there and you don't need as much seed is what we're finding. But again, depends on the scale and calibration.
Are you talking about coated or uncoated? When you say pounds, are you talking about uncoated alfalfa seed or coated?
Oh, that's a good question. One trial has coated and one has uncoated. So it would be a little bit different between the two, for sure. But I can't give you a solid rate yet because I need to combine. This is like the famous last words of someone that does research. I did all the work, but I haven't like crunched all the numbers. So I don't want to say for sure because I don't have the numbers all put together. But the work is pretty much done. We just need to get that put in. The moral of the story is less seems to be more in a lot of cases.
Oh. All right.
The yields were pretty much.
This podcast is brought to you by Renovo Seeds, trying to offer this much sweetness. That's true. So, what we're finding out in most of the things that we do in ag is that if you take more time on doing deliberate seeding and do a better job seeding, it will pay dividends more than just trying to overcompensate for sloppy mechanisms, right? So, if you do it right, you can actually probably shave a little bit, and there's a limit to that. And but I never really heard of like planting alfalfa at 30 pounds. That sounds amazing if you sow seed, but I've never heard of that.
No, that's extremely excessive. But yeah, some people will say, oh, you should just do 30 because your stand's going to last longer. It's going to establish quicker, and that's a lot.
That's actually honest. To be totally truthful, it was a conversation with someone that regularly plants alfalfa. And they plant at 30 plus that got that research rolling. I was like, there's no way that you need to spend that money. We need to help you with that. So 20 is high in most cases, but some people will tell you to plant at 20 because if you just want to fly down the field, you can have 50% of it just fly away. So depends on what you're, like you said, it depends on how much time you're going to put into making sure it's going in the ground like it should.
That's a good point.
It's still kind of, it's just kind of a shame that all the forages are still planted on a per pound basis, right? When everything else is planted on a population basis. And so, Jared's question about coated or uncoated, well, a 34% coat makes a huge difference on the amount of pounds you're actually planting. And so until it's planted on a per population basis, how do you actually, create the same amount of similarities amongst so many variabilities, right? And so sorghum is the same way. And sorghum Sudan grass, your seed size varies so much. And so you'll see variations of recommended seeding rates from 10 to 50. I've seen 50 on sorghum Sudan grass. There too, it's like if your seed count is different, your pounds per acre is going to vary until you plant it on a population base. It's not going to change. But our equipment's drills and broadcast equipment for a lot of these forages too. And so then it's kind of it's just a bit more of a crapshoot.
That is a great point, though, Justin. And I can't say I've ever really sat down and said that to myself, but it is true. The forages are just kind of, I don't know, they're kind of left behind. They're like the left behind stepchild that, like, they'll be fine.
Probably work.
It'll work. It worked before. So the research piece is important for sure.
Okay, so is that sorghum Sudan grass seeding rate? Is that just a tool to get the finer stems on it? I mean, it's cheap seed, right? Sorghum Sudan grass is cheap seed. They'll say, you could plant 8 pounds and you'll have a stand, but just plant 30 to try and get a finer stem and better quality, or not really?
Well, I think it depends on how you're going to use it. If you're going to chop it and you're going to plant it in rows, obviously with a planter you can decrease your seeding rate. But if you're going to drill it in 7.5-inch rows or broadcast it and you're going to hay it, then more is better because of what you're saying. Yeah, pack them together, get finer stems. It's not going to stand as well, but it will. It'll be more like a grassy type of a crop versus a stalk like a sorghum would be.
Yeah. I mean, because it doesn't cost you near as much to double the seeding rate for sorghum Sudan grass as it does for.
Especially on a conventional sorghum Sudan grass. I mean, you're talking 60 cents a pound for seed, and that's another $10
most people are not too worried about it. I will say though, in our trial, so it depends on the trial, but one of the trials we're running, we allowed the companies who paid to be in it to set their seeding rate. And that has been really interesting. Let's just put it that way. Large, and of course, those seeding rates are published with the data, so it's there. People can see that they're different. But there's been some big differences, especially with the grasses, the Sudan grasses.
In yield, has there been a big difference?
I think they have been dried and weighed, but I have not seen the numbers yet. So we're going to find out. It was this year that they were really different.
Yeah.
So I think we had set the seeding rate in the past, and we thought it would be interesting to try to let them set their own. And when I received the seeding rates, I was like, oh boy, we will see what this does. So it's going to be fun to see. I thought when we cut it, we have to cut it by hand, the joys of research. And I thought when we cut it, there were some differences. So we'll see.
Huh.
Can't really go by the wet weight. So.
But there too, like if your stand is 30% denser, but you doubled your seeding rate and you increased your cost by $10 per acre for seeding, but you gained an extra half a ton is going to pay back for your seeding costs. So
maybe what I should do. I mean, I have all this data and I can't give you answers because I don't have it summarized. But maybe what I should do is add to that load and do a price. And it'd be fun to do a cost analysis on that and just see. Based on local seed price, what this actually, was it an advantage or not? Yeah.
Yep. But most of the time it would be an advantage. You know what I mean? Like as valuable as the feed is, it would be rare that an increased seed cost that was actually cost more than an increase in yield. That would never happen.
Like you said, that seed cost is nil compared to a lot of crops. Yeah.
Interesting.
But at some point, like you could say planting, oats is not, that's actually a lot more expensive to go up. To add another 2 bushels of oats would be a lot too. I'm trying to think of a scenario where you have cheaper seed where you just have a limiting factor. Like you can plant too much, even if corn seed was free, you can plant too much corn seed and you go backwards, right? You guys should do a trial next year to see what's the maximum amount of sorghum Sudan grass you can plant per acre. By population.
Just shove it in there, see what happens.
Yeah,
it would probably give someone a terrible idea, and they would read like just the title of it and go do it. So now I'm scared. That lady from Extension told me to do it.
Katie, I was supposed to drill and cover crops this year. I was supposed to bring a small bucket, like a gallon bucket of rye home for Katie for her garden, and I just kept forgetting to. So then she just drove to the office one day and got a 50-pound bushel bag of rye. And we don't have a very large garden. And then put an entire bushel bag of rye on our probably 1/20th of an acre garden, right? Because it's like I think I figured out it was like a 35 bushel the acre seeding rate.
That's pretty great. That was definitely for forage.
The yield of that. And then, but it is so dense. It is so dense. It looks wonderful. But I thought
I
it would
bet.
doesn't like compete itself out. It's taller than the rye by a lot than the rye that is not. Like 30 pounds of the acre that's right next to it in the field. Anyway, so you
Interesting.
should
Well, the
maybe
height thing doesn't surprise me because a lot of those grasses get spindly when they want sun, right? So it's probably competing with itself for
I think
a
next
lot of
year you should
things, and they
do
get
the entire research farm of Beersford in a population trial for conventional sorghum Sudan grass. You should go from 2 pounds an acre all the way to 200 pounds an acre.
wouldn't that be
2 pound
fun?
acres, and then
I'll
weigh them
mention
all.
that to the farm managers. I'm sure they'll be totally game. As long as Renovo or Milborn is donating the
Yeah,
seed,
there you go.
then
We'll do the 2 to 10 pound seeding rate donation, and then you give
somebody else can
NBC
do the rest.
somebody else 180 to 200 pound.
There you go. That's a real businessman there.
It's gonna use
Oh,
your head.
shoot.
So going back to, you mentioned that your trial work is really dependent on what you're seeing and what you're hearing out in the field. And so
Mhm.
why the sorghum trial? Like what spurred that, or what do you see coming on that gained some attention to that?
You know, I think that sorghums, well, forages as a whole, but sorghum and sorghum Sudan specifically tend to just kind of be this left behind afterthought type thing. And if people are going to plant them, it's oftentimes on like a really rough year where they have an opportunity to get something in late for one reason or another. It was too wet, it was too dry. I mean, they're pretty good and drought tolerant in a lot of cases compared to our other grasses, and you can get something out of them. So I think a lot of times people just view them as this um, second opportunity type thing. Like they're a rescue crop. That's the word I'm looking for.
Yep.
And because of that, there's not a whole lot of forward facing talking about it. What's the best plan for sorghum? And maybe we should be talking to people about planning to plant sorghum instead of using it as solely. I mean, it makes a great rescue crop, but it can be a lot of other things too. And the market domination and insurance, domination of row crops is also, and sorghum can be a row crop, so that's not a good way to say it, but corn and soybeans essentially can really put that aside and cause some of those issues in that thought process. So finding a market for it, and a lot of times that's a forage producer, that's someone who is, integrated livestock on their operation already, and talking about that as a planned event and not just we're going to do it because we have to. So I think conversations with people about that after drought kind of spurred some of that interest. And then honestly, relationships with the Forage Association board members and some questions that people have asked more recently. Working with Jeff Jackson, he's with Cropland on the forage board. He does a lot of work with sorghum. And so I've had many conversations with him too. And combination of all of that got me thinking we should really be doing more work with this. And then a grant opportunity came up to work with Iowa State, and they have a sorghum breeder, and she is the PI on this grant that is the variety trial for the sorghum.
Huh.
So working
I
all
was
those things together. Yes, isn't that crazy? Iowa State has a sorghum breeder. Yep, I didn't know it until she invited me to be a part of this. And then I have to give props to Peter Sexton and Brad Rops at the Southeast Farm, because I think they may have actually suggested the paid entry trial before I did, because we do alfalfa paid entry trials, and we've done some warm and cool season. You guys have been a part of them before, so you know about those. And then it kind of was a natural fit. But just personally, I think sorghum needs more attention. We focused on it at our forage field day this year and had the best turnout we've had in a long time, and way more questions than we often have. So I think it was a great discussion about sorghum, and it opened my eyes to how many people really don't know about best production practices with these crops and are interested in learning more if you make the opportunity available.
Well, I think it's just another opportunity for a water efficient plant to be used in South Dakota for silage. And
Yeah.
like this last year was kind of an anomaly as far as rainfall across the state, and the central and western part of the state received more rainfall than the eastern part of the state. But typically that's not the truth. And as we see feedlots move west, man, I think it's going to have to be a play for people on their farms for silage options. If you want consistent silage, as far as like yield, if you want consistent yielding silage, then sorghum probably should be in your rotation. Like corn's gonna certainly give you a higher energy forage crop, but there's years where it just doesn't quite make it. Where sorghum, you're probably never going to get the ultimate high yields as corn, but it's always going to be there. It's certainly way more water efficient. So even if you're under a pivot, it requires less moisture. So it's just it's something that probably needs to be talked about more. We got to continue to promote it. And I think, these forage trials where people can actually see that it works in South Dakota, and like, holy buckets, that actually can produce 18 ton of silage for me. Now I can, consistently grow it and trust that it's going to work for a farm.
And it seems like it can do it on like 6 drops of rain. So, I mean, those trials at the Southeast farm, it did not rain after we planted them, if I remember right, this last year. It didn't rain forever, but they look great. The stuff is really tough. And there's breeders making it better all the time, so that helps too. But you said what I said in about 500 less words, Justin. What he said. That's what I'm going to go with.
We're seeing the same thing, so that's good.
It made way more sense when you said it, so let's go with that.
That's great.
So, we've kind of talked through all the different things as far as what you've worked on as far as the research goes and what you've seen. So I think we've got to, Jared, don't you think we should put everything to the test and do the graze it, harvest it, rent it scenario?
Yes.
Oh, this makes me nervous.
So typically we get like emails for suggestions of scenarios for the game. And we're still waiting on the we need the bit, right, Jared? We still don't have the music from Katie.
No, we
don't have that yet. Okay.
Parents teacher conferences this week is a busy week. I didn't bring it up. Yeah.
We need a jingle, Sarah, so that when we say it's graze it, harvest it, rent it out, then we have this jingle that plays.
Yeah.
That's coming.
That'd be good. I like it.
Okay, so here's the scenario.
So how about
you
just sing it for now?
Yeah, I did that one time, and I got too many people making fun of me, so I'm not going to say it anymore. Can you sing?
Can I sing? Not on a podcast. I forgot how. This is gonna be recorded for all of time. So I haven't warmed up. I can't possibly. You know what? We'll come up with a jingle. I'll help you.
All right. Okay. That too was recorded, so you're held to it.
It's better than singing.
Okay, so you have out of all these 3 fields, you have to choose to graze one with livestock, harvest it, however you want to harvest it for feed. So you can hay it, you can chop it, put it up as baleage. And then when you get to rent it out, you're just like, you know what? I don't even want to deal with that. I don't know how I'd graze it. I don't know how I'd harvest it. So I'm just going to rent it out. Okay.
Oh, this is tough. Okay.
So here are the fields. Each of them. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it'll be a good challenge. Okay, so each of them are a 40-acre research plot.
I'm taking notes. Okay.
All right. So you've got various varieties within the research plot, right? Like different kinds, different varieties, but all the same species. Okay, so the first one is a 40-acre plot of forage sorghum hybrids. Okay. Oh, I forgot one important detail. It's November 21st. Okay, so that matters, right? All right. First one, 40-acre plot of forage sorghum hybrids. Second one, 40-acre research plot of winter triticale, which means it was just planted like within the last 60 days. And you've got a 40-acre research plot of oats that was harvested back in August, right? It was combined. Those are your 3 fields.
Okay.
Was the straw put up on the oats that was harvested?
What?
When you
Yeah,
put a
were they
star,
straight
it's right there.
combined? Were they? I was actually.
We're gonna say that they were swathed, combined, and the straw was baled up.
Okay.
Okay.
But now you've got like a little bit of volunteer oats out there.
Yeah. You get something from that.
Yeah. So I need to tell you for each one, or just in general, the whole thing.
One of those you have to graze, one of them you have to harvest for
okay.
feed, and one of them you have to rent out.
Is it obvious that I have not been aware of your podcast? This is bad. I think I need to listen to it.
Are you kidding me?
It's like going on a game show and not ever watching it. Oh boy. Well, okay, so I'm going to think out loud. So the sorghum hybrids were cut for silage, you said?
They're just standing there.
They're still there.
Oh, they're
waiting
still
to be
there.
chopped.
Yeah.
On November 21st. So somebody. So there is a potential grazing opportunity, but the feed value has dropped some because it's been froze a few times. But honestly, if we're around here, it's not been that cold for that long. So you're probably past prussic acid at least, but you're losing a little feed value. Winter triticale, we don't know much about it, but there's nothing there that one we're not going to be grazing anyway because there can't be a whole lot up, I'm guessing. And oats, you don't have much residue there either. So I think the easy one is grazing. You're probably going to go graze that sorghum. My other options are renting and harvesting. Right?
Yeah.
Boy, well, you can't do I have the opportunity to plant something into those oats, or is it just the way it is? I have to do something with it today.
Planting it was not an option.
Well, then I guess I'm kind of stuck.
Don't you know the game?
Like, I have to rent the oats out because I can't harvest them. So then I'll harvest the winter triticale. And if you're out west, you could graze. People do graze those winter feeds. You would have higher feed value, but you got to be real careful, and you can't graze a whole lot. And at this point, it's not going to have probably a whole lot more value than the sorghum. So I'm going to say I'd graze the sorghum, and I'd harvest the triticale next year. So that leaves me to rent out the oats. But it hurts my heart because I love oats. I do love oats, but they're gone. They're not there. And you took all my residue away.
What's your favorite oat variety?
Well, I've always liked Hayden, but we've had a little the rust resistance is kind of wearing off. So probably Rushmore, only because I'm pretty familiar with it. I haven't done anything with Buffalo, and people say Dion is really great too, but that's not a South Dakota variety. So I feel like
it's not Minnesota variety.
Rushmore. Yeah. Darn those Minnesotans. Dion's pretty good though too. I mean, I've
very loyal.
Yeah. Well, I haven't planted Dion, so we grow certified seed. So I would have to say probably at this time Rushmore. What about you? Have you done a lot with Buffalo? Do you guys contract a lot of Buffalo?
Yeah, we have used that. Last year was like the first year of it, but yeah, people are happy with them.
Yeah. Yeah. So what would you guys do with this game show scenario?
Okay, so I'm gonna rent out the sorghum.
Yeah, that's the other option. Because the feed value is.
Yeah. Right. Well, so like something's there. So I'm going to contact the Cattail King from Hayti, South Dakota, Mr. Tucker up there, and see if he wants to come in
and graze it.
He'll be in the podcast in the future at some point, I'm sure. But this gentleman has been harvesting like hundreds of acres of cattails in this area because it's like prairie pothole region. There's these big sloughs that get really dry in the summertime and building up cattails, and it's like, well, who would buy a cattail bale? But lots of people buy cattail bales.
Yeah. Like whether it's right or it's wrong. Yeah.
Right. It's like anything in a bale.
See, it's a moral dilemma for me because, like, yeah. If you know what you're doing, though.
Yeah, he goes in the right time of year, gets them good and dry. They make good fluffy bedding. feed them? No?
Yeah.
Okay, anyway. So I would say here's an upgrade to cattails. So like cattail market plus $20 is what we're going to sell these dried, baled, very stale sorghum sedan or sorghum bales for. We don't have to worry about drying out. Hopefully, this should be done. We could dry it out by then. And then I'm gonna harvest the triticale next year. I'm gonna graze those oats right now, just for a little bit, but they're gonna be really punchy, really punchy.
Yeah, I didn't really think about the volunteer oats. I was thinking of a bare field. I spaced that one off. You got something there,
Okay,
don't you?
but it'd have been great like 3 weeks ago, but the oats,
Yeah, I
volunteer
just
oats.
am thinking if it was, depends on how much light stuff you blow out the back, but if it was decent, you shouldn't have much left there.
This year our oats
You're
go 3
probably
times.
you're probably doing it right. I would say that's probably better. It's hard to say with sorghum though. You know that because there's sorghum around that I've seen. It still looks half decent. It's amazing, but the feed value is definitely you'd have to supplement for sure.
Maybe it wouldn't dry out. Maybe it's not dry out.
Yeah, I mean it's hard to bale. You got to make sure you had a good couple frosts. That's another research topic. I want to get into doing more prussic acid research, but it's a whole ball of wax. That's a lot of air factors with sorghum and freezing.
Yeah.
At least you're past that.
I've heard rumors about a prussic acid free sorghum coming to the market.
Yeah.
So that might be. Yeah.
And some of those
I thought
lines.
when I saw this, I thought the most value was going to be the winter triticale. Like if you went to a guy and said, "Hey, do you want to rent out one of these 3 fields?" Like the opportunity to rent out the winter triticale for harvesting next year is probably the highest, just because it's kind of familiar and
probably. But I mean, I guess I was looking at it from a best use on my operation standpoint. But yeah, if you strictly look at profitability, then that's the best one to rent out. Yeah, I think Jared, if I hadn't omitted the thought about volunteer oats still being out there, then yeah, I'd probably if I had to sit down and think about it, probably do what you did. But this is an interesting game, thought provoking.
Yep. There you
go. There's more of them. Please go to rootsandribbons.com and download further episodes. It's the only one that involves you, Sarah, but there is other episodes.
Yeah,
you can check it out.
I probably gave the wrong answer. They're like, "Oh gosh, don't take her advice."
There's no wrong answers. There's no wrong answers. There's no right answers. It's purely subjective, and we never know what we're gonna say next. I was gonna say that the funny part of that of like the oats like that grew 3 times this year from the same seed. So we had the oats that grew and then basically went into dormancy right after they put on kind of a small spindly head, and then we got that rain in June.
Yep.
Then the timbers came on, so we had a second set of oats coming back from the same root system, like with different heads coming out of there that literally matured like 3 to 4 weeks apart, which is kind of amazing. Wow. And then when we combined, we got rain again, and then like the oats came back. Both fallen seed, but also a lot from the root too. It was kind of crazy. Just kept on growing.
Yeah, you wouldn't think there'd be hard seed, but apparently oats are tougher than we give them credit for a lot of times. People say they're such sallies, but they come back. They come back really well. I should have thought about that, but yeah, it depends on your situation for sure. Oats are a lot of fun. We ended up haying most of our certified oats this year, which made me very sad, but you got to do what you got to do.
That's not plan A.
No, far from plan A. But that is my pitch for small grains and forages. There is an easy plan B usually, and sometimes even a plan C that's viable, versus a lot of times with corn, plan B is silage, and that's your only option. So I'm not a corn hater.
Good point.
I just think there's a lot more options in the world.
You're just a forage promoter.
Yeah, there you go.
That's great.
Glass half full.
Yep.
That's right.
Sarah, it was awesome to have you join us. We really appreciated it. And we hope that you enjoy listening to other Roots and Ruminant episodes now that you know about them. Look forward to
for sure.
Your comments.
Can I put a pitch in for the annual meeting one more time?
Yeah.
Okay, so the Northern Plains Forage Association, even if you're not a member, you are more than welcome to come learn about it and take in info at the annual meeting, which is on December 1st in Brandon at the Holiday Inn. Starts at noon with a meal, ends at 4:30. And we're going to have Dr. Dan Understander talk about alfalfa leaf loss effect on yield and quality. And then we have other speakers, Rebecca Kern-Lunbury. She's going to talk about evaluating grasses in rotations using Ward Labs. And Brady Wolf and Justin himself are going to talk about alternative forages and grain rotations. And then we're going to end the day with Dr. Peter Sexton, who is the manager at the Southeast Research Farm. We've been talking about fitting soil health into forage production, which I think is always it's a tough topic. You can do it, but it needs to be talked about. So we're going to end the day with a business meeting, and it's open to everybody. If you're not a member, it's $10 just to help us cover meeting costs. You can sign up. Just go to the extension website, extension.sdstate.edu, and click on events, and you can find it there. You can sign up so we get a decent count ahead of time, and we'd love to have you.
That's great. Hope to see everybody there.
Yeah.
Perfect. Well, appreciate it, Sarah. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Thanks for everybody for listening, and then stay tuned for the next episode of Ritz and Ruminate coming up in the next week. Thanks.